people think heartbreak belongs to the young. They think by the time you turn 35, you become immune to pain. They're wrong. Pain doesn't check your age. It only checks how deeply you loved. My name is Daniel Carter. I'm 35 years old. And the night I found her wedding card, I realized something terrifying. You can give someone the best years of your life and still be left with nothing but silence. I didn't lose her in a fight. I didn't lose her because of cheating or betrayal in the usual sense. I lost her quietly, politely, without closure. And that kind of loss stays forever. I met Emily Watson 7 years ago, on an ordinary evening that didn't feel important at the time. I was sitting alone in a cafe, laptop open, pretending to work while my mind wandered through thoughts of deadlines and unfinished dreams. She walked in carrying the calm confidence of someone who didn't know she was about to change another person's life. She asked me for a charger. I said yes. That was it. No dramatic music. No love at first sight. Just a small conversation that slowly turned into a habit. Days became weeks. Weeks became months. She started sitting next to me instead of across the room. We talked about work, family, ambitions, fears we never said out loud to anyone else. She listened in a way that made me feel visible. And when you're nearing 30, being seen feels more powerful than being desired. One night, while walking her home, she stopped under a streetlight and asked me what I wanted from life. I didn't hesitate. I said I wanted peace, loyalty, and someone who would choose me even when it was difficult. She smiled and said, "If I ever get married, it will be with you." I didn't know then that promises don't always mean intention. Sometimes they're just comfort spoken at the right moment. Years passed. Real years. Not the kind you skip in a montage. Years filled with late-night calls, missed sleep, career compromises, family discussions, and endless waiting. I turned down opportunities to move abroad, because she wasn't ready. I adjusted my life around her pace, her fears, her family pressure. Every time I asked about marriage, the answer was the same: soon, just a little more time. Things are complicated at home. And because I loved her, I believed patience was loyalty. By the time I turned 35, I had built my future around a woman who still hadn't chosen me publicly. My parents asked questions. Friends moved on. I stayed. Because walking away from 7 years felt more frightening than staying uncertain. Then something changed. Her replies became shorter. Her calls less frequent. When I asked, she blamed stress, pressure, expectations. I understood. I always understood. Understanding became my weakness. One night she called me crying, promising that next year everything would be different. That we would finally get married. That she just needed one last push. I slept peacefully that night, not knowing peace was about to betray me. 2 weeks later, I came home after a long day. It was raining. The kind of rain that makes the city feel heavy. Near my door, lying quietly, was an envelope. A wedding invitation. At first I smiled. Then I read the name. Bride. Emily Watson. Groom. Michael Reynolds. I read it again. And again. My hands started shaking. My chest felt hollow. I called her. No answer. I messaged her. No reply. That night, I sat on the floor holding a card that erased 7 years in seconds. I didn't cry loudly. I didn't scream. I just sat there, staring at the wall, realizing that loyalty without courage is just waiting to be replaced. 2 days later, she finally messaged me. She said she was sorry. She said her parents forced her. She said she had no choice. But that wasn't true. She had a choice. She just didn't choose me. I didn't reply. Not because I hated her, but because I finally understood something painful. Love that needs permission will never fight for you. She got married. Life moved on. Or so everyone thought. What no one talks about is what happens after the wedding photos are posted. What happens when reality replaces celebration. When the applause ends and silence returns. Emily learned that lesson slowly. Marriage didn't give her peace. It gave her routine. Her husband was practical, focused on work, distant in ways she hadn't expected. He didn't ask about her emotions. He didn't notice her silence. He didn't know the version of her that laughed with me at midnight or cried without explanation. Some nights, she lay next to him staring at the ceiling, realizing she had chosen safety over connection. She told herself it was normal. That love fades. That marriage is adjustment. But regret doesn't accept logic. Months passed. She saw my name mentioned by mutual friends. New job, better position, confidence returning. I was healing quietly, rebuilding the life I had paused for her. She typed messages she never sent. Apologies she knew were too late. Because the truth is, regret doesn't want forgiveness. It wants time back. And time never returns. Today I'm still 35. Still single. But no longer waiting. I learned that love should feel chosen, not negotiated. That if someone truly wants you, they don't ask you to keep proving your patience. And if you're listening to this story while waiting for someone who keeps delaying commitment, remember this. The right person doesn't need years to decide. And the wrong person will waste them all. Time didn't stop after that night. It never does. It just slows down enough to make you feel every second. After Emily's wedding, days passed in a strange blur. I woke up every morning expecting the pain to fade, but instead it changed shape. It wasn't sharp anymore. It became dull, heavy, like something I carried quietly everywhere. At work, people saw a focused man. At home, I saw a version of myself I barely recognized. A man who had loved honestly and still ended up questioning his own worth. I stopped visiting the cafe where we met. Not because I hated it, but because it reminded me of who I used to be. The man who believed love was enough. The man who thought patience would be rewarded. At 35, I had to relearn life without the future I had imagined for so long. Nights were the hardest. Silence has a way of replaying memories you never asked for. Her voice, her laughter, the way she used to say my name like it meant safety. I tried distracting myself. Work, gym, long drives, but healing doesn't respond to distractions. It only responds to acceptance. Emily, on the other hand, was learning a different kind of lesson. Marriage didn't magically erase the doubts she buried for years. The excitement faded quickly, replaced by routine and emotional distance. Michael was not cruel, but he was emotionally unavailable in a way that slowly suffocated her. He believed love was practical, something that fit neatly into schedules and responsibilities. She believed love was adjustment now, because believing otherwise meant facing the truth she had avoided for years. Some nights, she lay awake beside him, staring at the ceiling, remembering how Daniel used to listen without interrupting, how he noticed silence, how he stayed. Regret didn't scream at her. It whispered. And whispers are harder to escape. She started following my life from a distance. Mutual friends, social media glimpses, casual mentions. She saw me change. Not dramatically. Quietly. I dressed better. I stood straighter. I stopped explaining myself. Pain had forced maturity in a way comfort never could. I didn't post motivational quotes. I didn't announce healing. I simply moved forward. One evening, months later, I ran into her unexpectedly. A bookstore. A quiet aisle. For a second, the world paused. She looked different. Older. Not in years, but in energy. Her eyes held something familiar, regret mixed with longing. She opened her mouth as if to speak. I nodded politely. And walked away. Not out of anger, but out of closure. That moment mattered more than I expected. Walking away without bitterness felt like reclaiming my dignity. I realized healing isn't about forgetting someone. It's about no longer needing them to understand your pain. Emily went home that night and cried silently. Not because she wanted me back, but because she finally understood what she lost. Some lessons only arrive when it's too late to apply them. As for me, life didn't suddenly become perfect. Healing isn't cinematic. It's slow, uncomfortable, and lonely. But it's honest. I rebuilt my life piece by piece. New routines. New goals. A new version of myself that didn't wait to be chosen. I learned something important at 35. Love should feel mutual, not conditional. Commitment should feel certain, not postponed. And if someone truly values you, they won't risk losing you to keep others comfortable. Sometimes people don't leave because they stop loving you. They leave because loving you requires courage they don't have. Emily didn't lose me because of her parents. She lost me because she chose fear over truth. And I didn't lose her. I survived her absence. Today, when I think of love, I don't think of promises anymore.